I learned at an early age to care about people from my father. You sleep better. Needless to say, I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning. It was hard getting information. Nothing, of course, was automatic, so you had to learn everything, which was good.
What kind of
It's
camera?
held me, huh?
What kind of camera were you
The
using?
first camera I ever had was an Argus A2.
What were you shooting at? First, just people or
People.
Yeah.
People. It was always people.
Yeah.
Okay.
The primary impetus is the relationship of people to themselves and their environment. I had help by folks from the community.
Okay. Okay.
I stayed with the family more than once, a lot,
Okay.
and they helped me. People guided me. A poverty worker named Jesus Marin, this was during Lyndon Johnson's tenure, and so there was some funding for this kind of work. He took me around to see various people and to labor camps. It started in the fall of 1967
Okay.
from that newspaper article I read, talking about the drought in the Yakima Valley and the shortage of food for the farm workers. They couldn't work and they couldn't get state aid of any sort. They couldn't get on welfare.
And Tomas by then had already started the Farm Workers Co-op?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I got those pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Taking what experience and knowledge I had of people who'd gone through this and what I'd read, I decided that I'd like to do what I could. So I took pictures of all sorts of things. There were times when I knew that I wouldn't be able to repeat the situation, so I just did what I could, hoping something out of there would be good enough to tell the story about that tiny aspect of the situation.
When the strikes occurred, my recollection is that Lupe called me and said, we need a lawyer. And I had been looking forward to using my Spanish somehow, so I went to the library at Haverford College where this training program was taking place and looked up the Yakima Valley, and I found out that Washington State, after Florida, Texas, and California, was the fourth largest employment center for migrant farm workers. And mostly because of the intensively labor-intensive crops such as apples and asparagus and at that point sugar beets and some other crops. And while I was over there, several incidents occurred in connection with the strike, and one of them led to what became a very interesting case called Garza versus Patnode, which was basically the first case to assert that there was a right to organize free of employer intimidation for farm workers.
Contract workers, that were brought over by the Employment Security Department, and they're kind of like the H-2A workers now, but except at that time they were in the country, and we had heard that the conditions there were real bad. And so I went, and then I discovered that there were a lot of issues because it was getting towards the end of the asparagus season, and people weren't making any money. They had a thing called a bonus that if you stayed till the end of the season, then they would actually just withhold part of your wages and then call it a bonus.
Then came the check stub that for a net pay, week pay of 29 cents,
I saw
which
that
I
photo.
photographed. They deducted
Okay.
food and lodging.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that the court held that they were tenants. No requirements of toilets in the fields, of water in the fields, of rest breaks in the fields, and
That's why I took so many pictures of dirty bathrooms and plugged up toilets. Bottom line, I want to see legislation that makes things better. That's why I did all that.
Okay.
I don't like to see people suffer, and it's worse when they suffer because of racial and ethnic reasons.
I think it's also significant is the power of images and the power of photography to bring people's attention to things that we don't want to tolerate.